All right, big show today. What's in the news, Molly?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Not a lot. I mean, there's like one big acquisition story.
Oh, is there an acquisition story? I love M&A. One of my favorite topics. What do we got?
Poshmark. Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Poshmark?
where we're going to go with that one. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of the other thing.
You're kidding. Also, there was breaking news right while we're on air that the Twitter deal is going to go through, apparently. So we'll talk about that to the extent we can. I got to tiptoe along the third rail, as it were.
We definitely are. And we're going to talk about circular economy startups and their exits and their incubation at Google. It's getting really interesting out there, and the idea of like not buying new stuff.
Thrifting. My daughter's way into this. Kids are into this. And then Selena Gomez has a new mental health startup called Wondermind. She just raised at $100 million valuation with no revenue, backed by Serena Williams. We're going to talk about that and how do these celebrity deals go down and the future of mental health being delivered digitally.
Yeah, and it does not go the way you think about that valuation, nor does our conversation about Liquid Death raising $70 million at a $700 million valuation.
Really great conversation. Important conversation. Yeah, stick with us.
This Week in Startups is brought to you by Vanta. Compliance and security shouldn't be a deal breaker for startups to win new business. Vanta makes it easy for companies to get a SOC 2 report fast. Twist listeners can get $1,000 off for a limited time at vanta.com/twist. Squarespace. Turn your idea into a new website. Go to squarespace.com/twist for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And lemon.io. Need to speed up your product development without draining your budget? Hire vetted engineers from Europe at lemon.io. Go to lemon.io/twist to get 15% off for the first 4 weeks.
All right, big news day today. It's Tuesday. Once again, my phone's blowing up.
So weird.
On Twitter. It's so weird.
So weird.
Yeah.
I'm just here to talk about the big acquisition news in the tech industry today. Poshmark.
Is that being bought? Anything else in M&A that we should talk about? Or not talk about?
For those of you who are not joining us live, I just want you to know it is now 10:33 a.m. and it was at roughly 9:57 or 9:50.
Yes.
That the breaking news alert came down. 9:42 a.m. is when I got the Wall Street Journal breaking news alert saying Elon Musk proposes closing Twitter deal at original terms. Billionaire's lawyers sent a letter overnight making the proposal.
Got it.
The end.
Okay. Well, congratulations on your purchase. And
congratulations, Twitter, I guess. Yeah.
Congratulations, Twitter.
Trading shares of Twitter were halted almost immediately after, but before they were halted, they climbed as much as 18% on the news, as you might imagine, because that climb put them at 47.93, which is still, a little bit under the offer price of $54.20 per share.
Yeah. So obviously, if you've read in the press or my mentions and my haters, I'm a little bit dragged into this, although I'm not super involved in it, if I'm being honest. And I have a couple ideas, I think, for the brand. A couple of ideas on the margins. I think some of them are good. I'll talk about all this when this is buttoned up. But I can't get too into details about anything. And just to be very clear, I don't know anything. I literally do not know anything. So I didn't know this was going to happen. Don't know any details, just so we're super clear. And I do think Twitter under new management could be an amazing platform. I think it's got tremendous potential. I've said that forever. I think it's got incredible potential. And if you can land 2 rockets at the same time, and build 1 million electric cars, whatever it is, I think you could make this company more functional. Yeah,
definitely not the same jobs, but we'll see. I guess we'll see. All we know is that this is where things stand now. I cannot imagine any scenario in which the board is going to say no to the price that is a significant premium over what the stock has been trading at, and very likely it may have been finally pointed out that contracts are contracts, and that should you lose this case, the Delaware court has the power to just take your company. if you don't follow through.
There's a lot of
like there's not
there was a lot of speculation on what they would do if the person didn't pay or something like that.
Right.
Crazy scenario like that. And
it's not even that crazy, right? Like the Delaware court has if you incorporate in Delaware, those are the rules. That's why Delaware keeps everybody in line.
I think it's a great jurisdiction it is the primary jurisdiction for doing startups for a reason. And
exactly. Yeah. Rules really matter. Like accountability matters, rules matter. And maybe that's what we're seeing today. As for the rest, who knows? Now is now, people. All we know is what's happening right now.
So, yeah.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the other big acquisition.
Sorry, I really can't. I know not being able to talk is.
I can't even imagine what do you feel it physically? Do you have a stomach ache? Like
it's kind of like getting stabbed with a kryptonite spear. There's always like a scene where Lex Luthor is like about to get annihilated by like Superman, and the eyes are beaming up, and he's about to and then Lex Luthor's like beep, and you just like he stabs him with a spear with a little tip of kryptonite. And goes, it's Superman. It's just honest. That's how it's like my kryptonite.
Worst nightmare to not be able to talking
talk. Is my kryptonite.
However,
not giving my opinion is my kryptonite.
Very, very smart of you, and I'm not going to bait you any further.
You've done a good job so far.
Thank you.
Ooh, the bait is just right there on the hook. You should jump out of the water and bite that hook.
I'm trying so hard.
All right.
Next.
So, Poshmark.
Let's just talk about Poshmark.
Poshmark is a fashion. What do they call it? A subscription
or a
marketplace?
It's a resale e-commerce marketplace.
So marketplace,
So people resell used goods. It's super popular with the kids because you can get cool stuff cheaper. There's sort of like Poshmark and Depop are the two big competitors in this space for kind of resale e-commerce. However, despite being very popular with the kids, Poshmark is being acquired by the South Korean e-commerce company Naver Corp for $1.2 billion. That values it at $1.6 billion, which sounds perfectly respectable. However, it is also less than half the price of when Poshmark went public in early 2021. Its peak market cap was $7.3 billion, which it hit on the day it went public. Its competitors include Depop, like I mentioned, of course, also ThreadUp, the Consignment Shop, Facebook Marketplace, and the RealReal. And this is just this kind of raised this question. We're seeing this like circular economy thing get more popular, resale of clothes.
Yeah.
But also there's this question of like direct to consumer e-commerce, I guess, and how hard it is.
There's a lot of things going on here. Thrifting is a trend. So this is a big deal. My daughter, who's 12, and some of her friends, they like to go thrifting. So whatever town we're in, we were in Tahoe, and there's like 5 thrifting stores on Lake Tahoe or around there. And this is like an activity to go thrifting for young kids today. And I took my daughters for ice cream. My daughter had a blazer she had thrifted. 5 college-aged women came over to my daughter at the ice cream store to compliment her on her outfit and wanted the details. And, she's showing them the labels and how much she paid for it. It's like, thrifting is...
it's a huge...
It's a huge thing.
My son has gone on several dates that consisted specifically of like thrifting and then going out for lunch. Like it's a hot activity.
That's it. That's really interesting. So whenever you're running a startup and you see like some energy like this, you can kind of ride that wave, right? And so you don't have to create the wave. The wave exists for a reason. And so what is the core reason this exists? Well, there's a generation who I think care very deeply about the planet. They've probably read or learned, perhaps even been indoctrinated to this concept that, hey, the planet is screwed and everything matters. And so what matters, like spilling dyes and, creating things that you don't need, all these Amazon boxes showing up to your home. I think it's just a generational shift that's lame. It's lame to, and then there's fast fashion, which is the other trend that I think these are kind of like two opposing tides. Fast fashion is, hey, you could buy a Coachella outfit, if I'm correct, like for $15, but it's disposable. And like, you do not expect these clothes to last. They're not built to last. They're going to be shredded and thrown away.
This used to be your H&M, a little bit your Zara, and now it's all Shein all the time.
Shein,
and in fact, there was just it's so interesting because you have these two opposing Gen Z forces. Like one is, wanting to shop more sustainably and being aware of the climate crisis and wanting to do thrifting because that's really cool. But then when there was like Gen Z's favorite brands and Shein was like up there. It was above any clothing retailer.
That's fascinating. So I guess
they love it.
And there's this other thing of
they're not all indoctrinated.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good this is an indoctrination that I think is pretty great. It's a religious kind of fervor I find with the young kids, on certain topics these days. They're very passionate about, certain things if you live in California, and one of them is sustainability. And it's really been drilled into them like the world's ending. And your buying of clothes is part of that. And it's like, okay, great. That's not true, but okay, sure. It's every little bit helps, I'm sure. And I think it also has to do with this controlling your spending is another trend that's going on here. Yeah. Which is, I notice a lot on like social media and TikTok, there are young people counting up how much they spend every day. Now, this was a device in magazines, right? You'd have a magazine, they'd show you like all the different clothes that somebody bought and what they cost, right? But I remember when we were growing up, it was kind of aspirational. Like you should be buying these. I was like, I remember some point, this was $30 Armani socks. And I was like, who pays $30 for Armani socks? I can buy like,
I was like,
a 10-pack of socks for
$12. You mean when you graduated from Old Navy to Gap, and then when you had made enough money that you could go from Gap to Banana Republic? That was it. You had arrived.
Yeah. And there was always another level to go to, right? And I think now they've kind of, people are opting out of that treadmill of what's the next brand that I can afford, that I can trade up to. And you also start with cars. People started with, a Honda Civic, and, maybe I could afford a used Volvo, and maybe I could afford a Saab. And, obviously Mercedes and BMW became like the height of, what a young person could aspire to own for their car. I get the sense that people are taking a different approach to this, which is kind of awesome. Because if you don't put yourself on that treadmill, in college, I think maybe the thing that broke people, higher education costs. If you just opt out of all that, which I've actually done in my life a bit, man, your stress level just goes way down. My stress level is super low because I don't waste money on nonsense. Like I don't fly private jets. I don't, stay at ridiculously expensive hotels. Some kid was perplexed that I was in Coach the other day, and I was like, well, there were no first class seats available, but it was also because they were like,
you're like, so was I. To be fair, I was
pretty perplexed too. But no, I routinely say if I am traveling under 3 hours, I don't care. If it's not like a big difference, sure, I'll take a business class ticket, whatever. But I'm kind of like, if it's absurd, I don't mind, being in a coach, and people are kind of upset at me for it. Like, I had like two different people, like, what are you doing in Coach on like the same trip? One going and one coming back. They're like, what are you doing flying? One was because I was flying Coach. One was because I was flying commercial. And I'm like, number one, like, how rich do you think I am? Number two, like, why would I fly a private jet alone?
Yeah.
It's kind of lame. I mean, no offense to my friends who fly alone. I understand if you have to do it for a business or something, or if you own the plane already, but.
Yeah. But also you just kind of want to. I mean, the question of aspiration, like aspiration drives human society. We talked about this at CNET all the time when we were talking about programming. Yes. What we used to call programming the front door, like deciding what stories were going to go on the front page. That in the old days, kids, sweet summer children, there used to be a thing called a homepage.
Yeah. And
editorial. And people would go to the homepage to find information. And then you would carefully choose what information should go there. So that people would enjoy it and click on it.
This is before the algorithm made everybody's homepage their own.
Exactly.
It was actually a little stepping stone.
Became the homepage for the whole world.
Well, yeah, you had to type in what you wanted, but there was also I don't know if you remember this one. There was the my craze. So you would put my.yahoo, my.google, my.lycos. and my.aol. And so their idea was you could program your own homepage. So before there were algorithms, you would go to your AOL or Yahoo homepage and you would say, okay, on the left-hand side, I'll put my stocks. On the right-hand side, I'm going to put my sports. Top middle is going to be my news. And then I want my email after that. Then I want my weather over here. And you had these widgets, and there were entire startups, I kid you not, created to be homepages. And it was a really clever idea because every time you would open a new tab, boom, your heads-up display was there. Really cool idea. It's
literally what we were talking about yesterday, actually, is like, give me the ability to program my own experience. Don't push it on me. Anyway.
It turned out, by the way, when I went to AOL and I saw my company there and I said, hey, let me talk to the team there. It turned out like 2% of AOL users ever changed anything on their homepage.
Exactly. No one ever did.
Nobody ever wanted to take the time to do it. And that's why the algorithm won, because asking people to do anything is going to result in them probably not doing anything.
Yep. 100%.
Okay, founders, if you're a SaaS or services company that stores customer data in the cloud, you need to be SOC 2 compliant from a third party if you want to close big deals. And you don't want to close big deals. You want those lighthouse customers. Well, our friends at Vanta make it incredibly easy for you to get and renew your SOC 2. On average, Vanta customers are SOC 2 compliant in just 2 to 4 weeks. Compare that to 3 to 5 months without Vanta. And they partner with over 24 audit firms who have been trained to file SOC 2 reports directly within Vanta. It's a total no-brainer. A bunch of our portfolio founders have used and love Vanta. They've all had an amazing experience. And if you don't have that SOC 2 compliance, well, you're just not going to get those major customers. And let's face it, those customers are the ones that are the most profitable and the lighthouse customers that draw people to your product or service. And here's the best part. Vanta's going to give you $1,000 off. That's right. Vanta, big fans of This Week in Startups. And you can get $1,000 off your Vanta SOC 2 compliance at vanta.com/twist. That's VANTA.com/twist for $1,000 off your SOC 2. And such a great company. I made an angel investment as well. Congratulations to the Vanta team. Well done.
So anyway, now we're in the shakeout period of circular economy shopping, right? Or just basically let's just call it online thrifting. I think even calling it circular economy, like, yes, that's part of the reason that some people go and shop there. But what it really is online thrifting. It's cheaper. It's super nice. But this question of like lifestyle and how you represent your lifestyle is definitely changing.
Yeah.
However, this purchase at this discounted price, is this macroeconomic, do we think, or does it say something about e-commerce and thrifting online?
Well, it's being bought by Naver. Naver was like the Google of Korea. I actually met the team there. It was part of my inspiration for Mahalo in the early days because at the time Google was 10 blue links and I had seen Naver. My wife is Korean. I had been to Korea. And there was a company called Daum, DAUM.net, and there was Naver. These were like the Yahoo Google there. They had all the search market share. There are countries, Molly, where the citizens are very much nationalistic and they only want to use their brands that are built in that country. So if you were to look at Google expanding around the world, there were like 4 or 5 countries they really didn't dominate in. Yandex in Russia, Yahoo Japan, which was run by Masayoshi-san and was a completely different experience. And Naver and Daum were, and also Taiwan, also big Yahoo users. So because Jerry Yang, I believe, was Taiwanese. And I'm correct if that was the story. So anyway, Naver bought it. They're a big portal. I think this sounds to me like they have a thesis, right? We talked about the thesis for Figma, right? Okay, they're a potential competitor. Okay, we get all those accounts. The market for people who need the Adobe suite is this. I'm holding my hands out about 6 inches wide. And then if I were to hold my hands out all the way to the entire population, that's Canva. And then somewhere between Canva and the Adobe suite is the Figma population. Anybody in business could have a Figma account because everybody in business has something to say about the product, probably. Right? Maybe not, I don't know. People in the cafeteria maybe don't. I don't know. People in the proverbial mailroom maybe don't. So I think there's probably a thesis here, which is this company is number one at thrifting, or a very big player in thrifting, and they think this is a global phenomenon. And I think that's actually kind of an interesting thing too. I wonder if moving these products around the world could increase prices. So we take all of the phones from America. People know they go to South America, they go to Africa, they go to emerging markets, in some cases frontier markets. So, an iPhone 10 in a frontier market is like an iPhone 14, right? It's going to be much better than the average phone there. So I have a feeling they have a thesis, and I don't know exactly what it is, but this is the bargain basement shopping we're going to see. The fact that Peloton hasn't gotten taken out, to me, is shocking. BuzzFeed hasn't gotten taken out. I mean, I think you're going to just see a ton of these, what they call tuck-in acquisitions. So a tuck-in is an acquisition that's less than 1 or 2%. Let's just put a number on it, like less than 3%, 4% of the value of a company. So Naver versus this, I don't know what Naver's worth, but it's got to be 50, 100 billion. So I have a feeling this is a tuck-in acquisition, and they probably have a theory. Hey, how can we make this go 10x from here?
Well, a little more on the circular economy. Goodwill is making a push to its online stores. I'm super excited about this, launching its curated marketplace of donated goods to compete with Poshmark and The Real, and they're calling it Goodwill Finds. So they're just taking all the work out of, discovering that someone accidentally or not dropped off
they're calling it Goodwill Finds. What a terrible name. They could have just as easily called it hunting. No, just call it hunting.
No, the find is the key. They are finding it. They did all the hunting.
Put it together, Molly.
I see where you're going there. But I see where you're going. Okay, I'll give it to you.
I got you. There you
Points.
Go. Cheers.
You got me. Wow, that was a slow burn on my part. That's embarrassing. That shows you how excited I am about the fact that I literally found like a Burberry button down on Goodwill Finds. Because in thrifting brain, I was like, oh, what?
I have Sterling to say, not
silver,
for me.
Italy, Italian herringbone chain. Oh my God. Then
not for me.
It all goes back to Goodwill and to charity when you shop there. And it's going to include high-end finds like Real.
Great.
I love this stuff.
Goodwill made more that. No, wait. I don't understand how Goodwill works. This is a nonprofit. You give them stuff. You get a tax write-off. They take your stuff and then they put it in a store and they sell it.
Yes.
And they made more. It says here in our notes, according to Bloomberg, they made more than $5.4 billion in donated goods retail revenue across the U.S. and Canada last year. And they helped 100,000. They used the proceeds, the net proceeds. Net proceeds basically means proceeds. To help. It's always felt that was a redundant statement. The profits went to train 100,000 people to get full-time jobs every year. Fascinating. I didn't know that there was their mission was to help people get trained for full-time jobs. Great, awesome.
Yeah.
Why not make their mission to give people high-paying jobs at the Goodwill stores?
Oh, they do that too.
They do that too?
They definitely give people jobs at the stores. Yeah.
Yeah. Seems to me like, training's great, but I mean, if Goodwill is such a great business, just taking every bit of money and then making really high-paying jobs would be like the total flex. I've always been, somebody asked me like I've been doing like an after all in call-in show on the call-in app and taking questions. And somebody asked me, what's going on in nonprofits? I said, nonprofits are very challenging as a operating system for a startup because you can't really make a profit. If you make a profit, it causes all kinds of problems. You're under all the scrutiny. The overhead of running a nonprofit, it's also hard. So I said, if you really want to do a nonprofit, just do what I call a 4 break even. Just spend all the money every year on whatever it is you want to do and just call it a 4 break even because you get a lot more flexibility and optionality. If Goodwill was an actual for profit, they could take the Patagonian kind of approach, right? I think Patagonian is like a 4 break even, right? All the profits eventually went towards this trust. So Goodwill should just flip to being a for-profit and say, we're going to pay absurd salaries with great benefits to our employees and just make it like they could show Amazon exactly what would happen if all the profits, and gains went to the employees.
Love it. Seriously, write that down, Goodwill. It's excellent. And then the circular economy is getting so big that Google just announced that it's creating an online-only startup accelerator focused on the circular economy. So companies that are,
didn't they just lay off half the people at their accelerator?
I don't know. Maybe they didn't like that one and now they want this one. But it's companies, so they'll be doing this accelerator. It's a 10-week program for companies that are focused on deliberately reusing, repairing, and recycling instead of producing goods that wind up as waste. Will offer mentorship and technical support through a mix of one-to-one and one-to-many learning sessions, and applications for that accelerator opened yesterday. So go through that and then call me at the Climate Syndicate. Let's talk.
Let's talk. Google for Startups. Yeah, this is their program. Google for Startups. They've been doing this for a while. And they have an accelerator there. I don't know if they invest in your company or not. I don't know anybody who's gone through their accelerator. I'd love to meet them. A lot of times these accelerators are to help you, are onboarding for their cloud computing, offering. So they'll, not to be cynical or anything about it, it's still valid. And if you go to it, I think it does help validate you because there's some selection process. So there's no dig to it, but I just think that is typically
in the first paragraph of the TechCrunch story. Even it's like the efforts, latest to help environmentally focused startups grow while potentially hooking them on its cloud products in the process.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. So I was just giving that as a clarifier that it's not a financial thing. They're kind of trying to tick off customers, not like upset, but to, intercept customers before they start using AWS. It's a very smart strategy, by the way. I think Google is brilliant for doing it.
Yeah.
And more folks should do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they end up incubating great startups for me, I'm stoked.
Yeah. So this is a theme class. Like we considered doing theme classes. The problem when you're running an accelerator of doing a theme, Molly, is it's really hard to find startups that are in the stage of their life. There's probably a 6-month window, 6 to 18 month window when a startup would consider an accelerator. It's hard enough to find people who are in that window. And then if you narrow it to a specific vertical, it's particularly hard. But if you're doing it and you don't care about how much money you're putting in the deal, because they're not putting money in here, I think they're just giving them credits, then anybody can join it and it's virtual. So you don't have to, just show up once a week, I think probably, and just pitch your startup and stuff like that. So congratulations to them. And I think it's super cool.
And it's just an interesting market development too. It's an interesting.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting to think that we're at the point where we're having conversations. It is as yet unproven, but we're having conversations about whether you can build a venture scale business selling used stuff. Like that is a fascinating inflection point, I think.
Hey, everybody, Squarespace is the platform where you can build or sell anything. You know it. I've talked about it forever. It's the longest running sponsor here, I think, on the old This Week in Startups. We love it at launch. We use it for all our different projects, including remotedemoday.com. You can see a beautiful website there. I just want to run down the features for you because if you haven't been paying attention, it's more than just a pretty website. Obviously, they have the most gorgeous templates in the business that look great, whether you're on a phone, an iPad, a widescreen, a laptop, any monitor, any browser. It just looks gorgeous. They were known for those amazing templates, but now they have, in addition to those beautiful templates, inventory management APIs, advanced analytics, so you can do e-commerce. It's obviously mobily optimized. Obviously, it's got SEO built in. Incredible 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support, 365 days a year. But you can also do member areas. What's member areas? Well, this is where you can sell exclusive members-only content. For example, let's say you had a cooking website, you're a chef. Well, you could sell cooking classes on there, custom recipes, or piano tutorials. The possibilities are endless. And if you build it yourself on Squarespace, you don't have to give 15% to other platforms. Let that sink in. So I want you to head to squarespace.com/twist. Start your free trial. When you're ready to launch, use the offer code TWIST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. They've got all those great domains there. This is the best bang for the buck, folks. Squarespace.com/twist. Amazing, amazing product. I have a way to do it that I think these folks should go to. Sorry.
No, I love it. I love it when it's just like the idea machine turns on.
I'm sorry.
Open the hose. Go.
Hold on. Let me just have a sip of my Grande. I have an idea. Where's my phone? I have another idea. Sorry, I'm enthusiastic, folks. If you're going to tell me I'm a loyal friend and I'm enthusiastic and have a lot of ideas, guilty as charged.
Yeah.
Guilty as charged. Oh, and I'm a great capital allocator, by the way.
There could be worse things.
Guilty as charged on all counts. Here's a great idea. Make this a membership. So to be a member, you just pay $100 a year to be part of these communities. Unlimited buying and selling, trading between parties or through the central location. But there's no transaction fees. You just put it up for whatever price you want. You pay your Stripe, whatever. You can put your own Stripe in. You can list anything you want. You could have an API to list it, whatever. You just have to have a membership and you take all the fees out. Because I think the fees is what gets expensive here is the markups on these things. I know eBay sellers got really concerned about that. But if you had to have a membership to get in there, then the business would be sustainable. So what Goodwill should do is they should make it an online membership for their online store of $50 a year donated to Goodwill. And then you get access to everything. Or you have access for the first 30 days, something's online. And on the 31st day, anybody who's non-members can see it. Or actually, everybody can see everything, but only members can buy stuff in the first 30 days.
Oh,
that's it. Sorry, the gears were churning here.
You just wait right here. And
here's an idea. Yeah. Anyway, I think that would be a more sustainable idea. If somebody wants to build, this is
already working on a circular economy, like Josh Galt, one of our noties, is saying. All right, listen to these punch-ups and email us.
Well, somebody just build an MVP or come to Founder University with this idea. Yes. Pretty good chance I'll just give you, if you built an MVP and mocked it up in Figma and something like that, I'd probably just give you the $25K that we give at the end of the program, at the beginning of the program. I'm doing that with an influencer who I think is incredible, who has 1 million followers. And I was just like, come to Founder University and we'll give you the first $25K investment to quit your job. We'll take 2.5% and you can go have the money to incorporate. So somebody who's a product person, don't no idea people, somebody who actually knows how to build a product. So it could be no code. You can build it with no code, by the way. You can build this in Bubble or Notion or Zapier or some combination of those things.
Yeah. Do it. Love it.
Start a company. Yeah. Hey, on TikTok, you ever have this guy who is like, he's got really long hair and a beard and he's like jacked and he comes charging at the screen and he says, go to the gym. Go to the effing gym. Go to the gym. You ever see this guy?
We've talked about this. I only have dogs.
This is my favorite guy.
That's it. Some other animals, but
it's like, I'll go to the gym, but it's his whole
like,
stick.
whoa.
Is that somebody holds his camera, he has his cup of coffee, and he comes like around from like a tree, and he starts like charging at you like a bull and yelling at you to go to the gym. And he's like, I know you didn't go to the gym yesterday. I told you to go to the gym yesterday. You didn't go to the gym today. Go to the gym today. You didn't go yesterday. You're going to the gym.
This is why I got to get my burner TikTok. I got to get a burner TikTok just so I can see all the things that are on TikTok that are not cute animals and interspecies snuggles.
Here's an idea.
Okay. What a surprise.
Idea. Here's an idea.
You could just text this to me. No one will ever see it.
Nobody will ever see it. Here's an idea. There's so many jokes that will. I'm going to have so many jokes about this at the end. Red flag. Okay. Here's an idea. TikTok in the cloud. You can offer a service for $10 a month, and you can open up to 10 TikTok instances in the cloud, like virtual TikToks. Create whatever login you want for it, and then start swiping and have it swipe 10 times a day, whatever, so it keeps the things active, and just send them on different things. So you could have one for fashion, so you basically have personas in the cloud. So you can pull it up on your desktop and be like, this is my fashion TikTok. This is my travel TikTok. This is my food TikTok. And you just do 10 food searches, you do 10 fashion searches, but you just separate them out. That's
so awesome. Just instances. Because I don't want to have to create a different account and a password and this and that. Give me instances. So good.
Mean, this is what a lot of hackers do is they will run for privacy. Yeah. They'll run a virtual desktop on their desktop. So here I am on a Mac, or if I'm on Windows or on a Chrome, you can pop up, with AWS, like a Windows desktop. They pop up a Windows desktop, boom, they have everything in there. They're using an IP address. And those virtual desktops, then when the desktop goes away, whose desktop was it? What was it doing? What was the IP? What are the cookies? It doesn't matter. It's just a desktop. And I think you can do virtual. Somebody correct me in the note. Is there a way to pop up a virtual iOS instance in the cloud? I know you can do it for Android, I'm sure. But iOS might not let you do that.
Well, there probably is a developer version.
For developers, yes. But I don't think it would.
But I don't know if you can do that
to Apple like it was an actual iOS thing. Right. You have to just get a burner phone, I guess would be the easier way to do it, and then mirror it to your desktop. But yeah, that's like a little spycraft thing. That's how a lot of spycraft works.
Gray man. Hashtag gray man.
Yeah.
I finally downloaded book. I'm up to book 6 in the Gray Man series. I have to literally, and I was like, I'm not allowed to open this until after like the investment. I was like, you can't even listen to these. I'm so addicted to them. Okay. I can't wait to hear what ideas you have for Liquid Death.
Sorry.
Today's
my Peter Phipps company. Yeah.
Huge fundraising news. Just bananas. This is one of those products that came into market and the collective snicker was heard round the world, right? Like, we need more manly water. And they created this water. It's water. It's in a can, actually. So it's way more environmentally friendly than plastic, right? Forever chemicals out. Yep. It's tall boys of water with cool design. And Liquid Death just raised how much money? $70 million at a $700 million valuation. So all y'all were wrong, horribly wrong. You were so wrong.
So,
water in a can, bees.
I saw this and I was like, I drink sparkling water. I love having salsa out of a can. That's like one of my favorite things. I like the mouthfeel of a can.
Love LaCroix.
Love it. I'm a glass, then can, then plastic. Probably like most people.
Yeah.
But I used to like to get a salsa water when I lived in New York out of a can. And I saw this and my friend Peter Pham from Science, was I guess he's a co-founder of it, or they incubated it with another guy. This is really just about, you have a party and you don't want to use plastic, right? So a lot of my understanding is a lot of the music festivals, the angle they've used is they can sell these cans for more money and you feel terrible using plastic. And again, back to like a generational shift, even our Gen X, we know about plastics. Like they started to indoctrinate us into like this, like, don't use plastic. If somebody gives me a straw, I hand it right back to them. Plastic straw, I hand it right back to them and say, do you have paper? And like a number of times I've done that, the person says, it is paper. And I'm like, oh, sorry. You can't tell the difference when they give it to you. I'm like, sorry, I don't want to use plastic. And I use metal straws at home. So I think that's the beginning of this, is that a lot of these festivals get to say, hey, we are zero plastics.
Yeah, exactly.
And at our events,
you can actually report like a net zero or a waste thing. It goes into your scope 3 emissions. Like it's all,
if you're doing those things, and if you're having a backyard party, you're probably like, nobody's doing like a scope 3 emissions report.
No, but these look a lot cooler. And you feel that way. They look cooler, design is cool.
You feel better. And then I think on top of that, and probably underreported, is when you don't drink alcohol and you get pressure to drink alcohol. Anybody who's a young person has been through this. I used to order cranberry and club soda when I didn't drink and I was at bars in my youth. And people were like, what are you drinking? Vodka cranberry? I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever. I don't drink. I don't like alcohol. It makes me feel terrible. So, I have a glass of champagne once in a while, like Veuve Clicquot, or like a dessert wine. And so I would drink that just because it would take the pressure off, because people wouldn't give me a hard time when I was in my 20s. Yep. And so I think a lot of people who will be drinking these, it's like people think it's a, whatever,
looks like
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Looks like
it looks more like a drink, right? It's got kind of a mocktail, like the mocktail thing is really in right now. It's got that kind of mocktail vibe / you could think that it was a White Claw or some other hard seltzer drink. Like it really, 100%. This is a social engineering success story.
Correct.
Like cool branding, riding that, the wave of environmental consciousness that we, started talking about with Poshmark, and giving people kind of social comfort.
I think also they have flavors now too.
Do they? I thought it was literally still just water.
That's how they started, and that became kind of like a joke, and they wrote it. But now, if you go to their website, like, they have like the mountain water from the Alps, but they do sparkling water now, and they have lime, mango chainsaw.
So more of a LaCroix situation after all then. Some are claiming, by the way, that Liquid Death is the fastest growing non-alcoholic beverage ever.
Yeah.
I love, honestly. Compared to energy drinks, like compared to all this other crappy stuff, like great, sell us awesome water. Yes, you can get it from the tap. You definitely can do that. And you can put it in a bottle and fill it up and take it with you.
Take it from me. Hiring developers is really hard. And so many startups struggle to hire fast enough to keep up with demand. So Lemon.io is going to help you hire better developers, and they're going to help you do it faster. Okay? That's the key. They have a network of engineers from Europe and Latin America, and every candidate has been tested and interviewed by their team. Here's how Lemon.io will help you. No more wasting time with unqualified candidates. No, these are all vetted and tested, and you're going to have easy access to global talent. And they can get your developer up and running, you're not going to believe this, in under a week. And of course, it's more affordable. I can't tell you how many companies I know are burning money every month, but their product's not improving. And if your product doesn't improve, well, then you can't make money. You can't hit your milestones. You need developers to hit your milestones. You don't hit your milestones, investors will not put more money in, and you won't get revenue coming in from your customers, okay? So if you want to save time, you want to get a great developer, you want to save money, All you have to do is go to lemon.io/twist and they'll give you 15% off your first 4 weeks. That's right, 15% off your first 4 weeks when you go to lemon.io/twist. It is so hard to find developers. They are so expensive. And that's why you need lemon.io. It shows you that branding does matter.
Branding
so
really
like packaging
matters.
and branding does matter. Less people don't think it does. So if you have a startup, and Apple figured this out very early. They said, let's just take our time building products. We don't have to be first to market. We should just make it the most beautiful thing in market. And the packaging matters. So Apple
Mango chainsaw
made unboxing so good that the Engadget team created the concept when I was running it. Peter and Ryan literally created the concept of unboxing. And what they would do is, and I was like, guys, you're wasting time. This is costing us bandwidth. Like, there's 40 photos of you taking your laptop out of the box. And they're like, and I said, the bandwidth is getting crazy. Can you just put like 4 photos? They're like, no, we put it in a gallery. That's why we have so many goddamn page views. People are hitting the next button. They love the step-by-step story of unpacking it. They like to see, like literally the Apple fans like to see the paper being peeled off the back of the whatever product it was, the iPad or whatever. And the unboxing
like the
experience.
OG ASMR.
It was. And, now I think we're at the point where the unboxing and the packaging maybe works against the environmental message. But this is just great. It shows you what consumers, I really like to think about how consumers change over generations. Now that there are 3 generations really after us. And watching that change is wonderful, right? Like, I think overall, and this is part of that generational shift. It's like the idea that a young person would buy a plastic bottle, they're just like,
Yep.
And I did at my events, there are water purifying machines and they chill water and they're high pressure. So I don't know if we have a link to one of them, but I could show it to you. They're like a bunch of taps and you roll this machine in, you run hoses, it filters the water in real time, it cools it in real time. And when you pull the tap, when you go fill a water bottle, it's like trickle, trickle, trickle. This thing, you pull the tap, it's like, whoo, it's got like a pump on it. And you get 10 taps there. And then what we do is we would sell glass bottles with the launch logo on it for $5. We buy them for, $2 or $3, put the launch bottle in. And people would say, hey, can I get some water? We're like, yep, right over there. Buy a bottle. And then we have a Contigo for, $30. We got a Yeti for $50. We got a generic bottle for $2. But we wanted to put a cost on it because then when people bought the glass bottle, they wouldn't throw it away because they're like, it's going to cost me $2. I have to go back. I'm going to have more water. I'm going to keep it, right? And so I know this sounds really crazy too, and people are going to make fun of me, but I will travel with my Contigo, and I bring some of my beverages with me in little packets. Like I have my little athletic greens, or I'll have like a sports drink, liquid IV. I have the packets for. And so when I'm traveling, I will wash that out of my hotel sink, shake it, or in the bathroom. And then at a lot of airports, there will be filtered water stations, and I'll put a liquid IV in there, or in the morning time, my athletic green, shake it up, boom, I'm good.
Wait,
So
you think people are going to make fun of you for that? Doesn't everyone do that?
Does everybody do that now? Carry like a Contigo with them in their backpack? I don't know.
Yeah, or some kind of a water bottle and have all your beverages, and 100%. I mean, I don't know. Listen, I'm here in the bubble, so.
You know what? Maybe it's because actually the times I've had people be like, what are you doing? Like, I think it's been when I've been with rich people on private jets. And they're, I'm drinking from a Contigo, and they're just like, what are you doing? Like, we have Crystal on the plane, whatever it is.
It is fascinating though. And like to have 5 generations basically shopping right now, all at the same time, right? Because you have everybody from boomers to Gen Z, and to keep an eye on this, to bring it back to the startup and investment lens.
Yeah.
Look at this. Next time you're tempted to laugh at like super well-branded water in a can, ask yourself if there's a market there and think accordingly, because apparently there is. Now, this may be a crazy valuation. I think this is lightning in a bottle. Though. Lightning in a can?
Ew. Lightning in a can. Thank you.
I mean,
this is lightning in a can, for sure.
It's like...
it's good.
Thank you. Thanks.
Get there. Get there. It is lightning in a can. Most people are not going to be able to do this. I implore you to stay out of the beverage business unless you have a specific passion and a really, really clever idea. The world does not need like the 10th, whatever.
Yeah.
Drink. We really have a really good thesis. Is be thoughtful. D2C is so hard. So hard. Like, and by the way, this is the greatest success story ever, and it's worth $700 million. Like if you were an investor and you invested in this,
making some faces.
Well, I mean, if you invested at this at 50 million or 100 million or 25 million, and then you got diluted by 50%, and you had put $1 million into it and you own 2%, now you own 1%. Okay, you got $7 million on $1 million investment, whatever it was. Like, it's just hard to make, it's a hard way to make money, D2C. D2C, very hard. Very hard. Does not scale gracefully. This has also been, is this a 6-7 year story now?
I think so. And it's a 3x growth, right? 3x year over year growth.
That's impressive.
And it's a 3-year story.
It's only 3 years? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Fastest growing non-alcoholic beverage ever. I mean, this one really is a rocket ship.
It is. Yeah.
But hard to replicate. However, take note of the changing values and the changing tastes of consumers here if you are in this space, because it's super relevant. Another thing that the Gen Zs and the millennials are super into, thank goodness, is mental health.
Yes.
And this is just a really interesting, like, VCs and startups going really mainstream, kind of celebrity culture story. Mental health focused startup called Wondermind that was co-founded by Selena Gomez and her mom just launched its website this week and raised a seed round from Serena Williams' new VC firm. They raised, but this is where this gets kind of fascinating. The startup just launched its website this week, raised $5 million at a $100 million valuation.
Hold on. Spit take. I mean, oh my Lord.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So 100 million. So they have 20 million. They have 10, 20 million in revenue.
They have I'm sorry, I'm looking. I'm pretty sure it's no revenue, right?
Yeah.
Yep, none. But it does have a 500,000 person email list. So you can see how that math worked out.
Well, I would say a consumer email, you can actually put a value on them, probably worth $50 each. So, that is a $25 million asset, maybe. If you think you could monetize at $10 a year for a generic consumer, maybe $5 a year, $10 a year, in 5 years, you could make $50 per person. You might value them at $50. If it was a B2B, if this was like actual psychologists, or it was people in the drug industry, a vertical B2B newsletter, those might each be worth $100 to $300 each because, they're very specific and targeted. So emails, newsletters can be worth some money, the value for each one. That's no joke to get 500,000 subscribers.
See, look at that.
How do you see?
Amazing. Yeah. Although there's still some first law stuff here happening, right? $100 million valuation, no revenue.
This is, it's not quite Jason's Law because it's not
all the way there.
No. And they have the email newsletter. True value of the startup, probably 25 million. We don't know how much they make per year with that email newsletter. Let's say that 500,000, and let's say, it makes, I don't know, every week, 100,000 from the newsletter. Could be 5 million in revenue. Could be 2.5 million in revenue if they're sold out, possibly. The great news about this is when you have a celebrity who has hundreds of millions of followers like Selena Gomez does or Serena Williams does, the acquisition cost for some emails could go to zero. So if Serena were to write an article every month in this, or a journal, and put it into the email, or Selena did this like every other week, you could see that be accretive, like Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop newsletter. So you can use celebrity to convert. And buying emails, I think most of the, Morning Brew, I think they were spending like $50 or $100 to acquire emails back in the day. And, then they hope that 1 out of 3 sticks around. So it can get quite expensive. The Skim was the other one. That was an email newsletter company.
I loved the Skim.
Yeah.
I mean, this really, Selena Gomez has 349 million followers on Instagram. Yeah. 349 million. So, I mean, it's not, when you look at it that way, $50 to $100 to $200, per subscriber, the question is, how will they monetize? And we don't really know at the moment. it's mostly content. So I don't know if it is expected to be sort of people are calling it like a more celebrity version of Psychology Today or WebMD for people who are searching for content around mental health.
Yeah.
And they have an advisory committee of 11 mental health professionals to make sure the content is accurate, responsive, inclusive, and relevant. I mean, I would say it sort of sounds like a more scientifically backed Goop. And we know that Goop has been really successful and has had a lot of product offshoots and a lot of merch integrations. And I think this is like the right product at the right time with a couple of beloved celebrities around it.
There's a great subscription opportunity here. I've looked at a lot of mental fitness apps. It is a real thing. And the delivery of mental health services through apps or the web is a real thing. Obviously, we're investors in Calm, which some people use as part of their mental health practice, right? To lower anxiety, to be more intentional. And so there is a whole category, if you want to look it up, of behavioral therapies, dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, that's cognitive behavioral therapy. Basically, treatments that you can deliver. The modality would be filling out a survey, doing a journal entry, and then doing that in coordination. And BetterHelp is a tremendous company that does virtual therapy. And so there could be, if this aggregates enough people, the ability to add to it those type of things for a subscription and maybe even provide mental health services. So there's, like many things in healthcare, there's content, WebMD, like here's some content. Then there's services by mental health professionals. Well, what's in between those two things, right?
Exactly.
There's going to college. There's like a Wikipedia page to get you education. What's in between those two things? And I think looking in between the two extremes, like free content on YouTube, free content on Wikipedia, and then giving $100,000 to a college institute. Well, there's brilliant.org, which we're investors in, or Masterclass, which we're not investors in. You can fill in between these two extremes. So I think that would be my best advice here if I was an investor in is like, what can we do in between people going to BetterHelp or going and finding a therapist? And one of them might be a paid subscription, $10 a month, get meditation maybe get, here is a journaling product. And I get pitched on these all the time. I've been looking for an app to invest in actually, because I think people would pay $50, $100 a year for an app that made them more grateful, lowered their anxiety, a little bit of what Calm does, a lot of what dialectical behavior therapy. I think I'm pronouncing that correct.
I'm looking up, by the way, how much people have been spending recently on astrology. And I'm imagining that. No, but seriously, right? You look something up. You're related. Like, I'm feeling like this. I have this mental health crisis. I don't know how to deal with this or that or whatever. And by the way, I don't mean mental health crisis in the sense where it's like an acute emergency. It's just like, I feel like this and I don't know what to do. And you look that up online and you end up at like astrology apps. And so spending on astrology apps, users in one single month, in the month of July of like 2021, spent more than $5.3 million on the top 10 highest grossing horoscope apps. It's considered, during the pandemic, it became a $2.2 billion industry. Imagine capturing that with vetted mental health advice instead. And then all of a sudden I am just all in on this $100 million valuation. Because people will spend a lot to take care of themselves right now. And right now they're mostly ending up at like Hocus Pocus. And don't get me wrong, I read my horoscope every day. I did my birth chart.
The cost of doing this, the inconvenience of doing it. Some people don't like to, go to therapists. Listen, if you're in distress and things are not going well for you, go get help, of course. And then, if, let me see if I can find one of these. I'm giving my producers like some of these worksheets, but here you can pull up those two worksheets I just sent for the audience to see if you're on youtube.com/thisweekin. And there are all these worksheets online. I can't actually see this one on my tiny teleprompter here, but
urge surfing, a technique for managing your unwanted behaviors.
Right. So this is cognitive behavior. The school of I was going to be a PhD in psychology. That was my dream.
I was wondering.
Clinical. I was going to be either be a clinical psychologist or go into forensic. And then, after my psychology degree, I got derailed because of the internet. But anyway, this whole school of thinking is really interesting. Some people, they just need to have the tools to know how to deal with adversity in their life, and they give these to therapists or they give these to groups. There are group settings for this kind of stuff. And there's deep psychotherapy, which that requires a lot of skill, a lot of training. And then there are, again, that between the extremes, going to doing deep psychoanalysis or, deep therapy or whatever therapy modality you choose. There's a bunch of different schools there. There could be worksheets that you could do. There are self-help books. And you could productize these. I'm surprised people have not productized these. I've been waiting for somebody to productize this category. I think part of it is giving this kind of help to people without, having a therapist in the room. Maybe people are concerned of, on outcomes or something like that. But
I could imagine that.
I think you got to be thoughtful about it.
Promising these outcomes would be, exactly. But what we're seeing, also, I think people just haven't seen it as a money-making industry because there was so much stigma around it, right? We are actually at a real inflection point where it's possible that this could be the moment.
It's time. It's definitely time for this. Yeah.
Yeah.
People will pay for it. We saw journaling companies, a lot of those, and that became a thing. So, and I just met somebody. I was at the Tesla AI day, and somebody came up. Oh, I'm a huge fan. I worked at this big, large company. I just quit to do an app. It's reminded me. I got to email him back. And he had a really good idea, just for helping people with a very specific type of emotional state. And I was like, wow, I'm really interested to see where you go with that. I would pull that string and see where you go with it, because I think you could do a lot to help people in very specific verticals with very specific techniques, and just educate them on what they're feeling, right? And I think this can be done without. There are aspects of this that can be done without an actual therapist, with the disclaimer, hey, if you're, in some kind of acute situation, go to the emergency room type thing. And I think society is kind of getting a little more used to empowering people with information as opposed to, having to go to the doctor every time you have some experience, right? You don't have to call your doctor for everything. I think there's probably things you could figure out on your own.
Well, and there's a shortage of every single doctor, right? We should acknowledge that part of the gap that this fills is that people can't get access to mental health care right now. Sometimes, literally can't find a therapist. If you're in California, I think they're all of Kaiser's mental health staff is on strike.
Oh, great.
And every therapist in America is completely overloaded because everyone is having a crisis. This is really, I mean, I have despite, this is why I keep listening all the way to the end of this show, because despite where you start, when you say $100 million and you spit out your tea, you end up are you guys still taking checks? Because
I mean, here's the good news. Well, I mean, the good news is they're going to have to fill in that valuation.
Not investment advice, by the way. Not
investment advice. But I mean, if they were tripling revenue and they did, 3 million this year and they were on track to hit 6 to 9 million next year, the valuation might make sense. If they had done 1 million, 3 million, and it was looking like they were going to do 9 million next year, sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the case here. We don't see the revenue yet.
Pre-revenue right now.
Okay, so if it's pre-revenue, it makes no sense. But the potential is there for this to be doing, a couple of $1 million from the email newsletter alone, starting tomorrow. If they have 500,000 real email addresses on there for a consumer type email. Consumer emails need to hit millions, B2B tens of thousands to make millions for obvious reasons. All right, great episode.
Fascinating. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Thanks for bearing with us through the awkward parts. Tomorrow,
it'll get less awkward when this is all over.
I cannot wait. We should just do a day. Just do a debrief. We'll do a day-long debrief.
Yes, that'd be so great.
That'll be amazing. Great. We'll call it therapy. Stay tuned tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a new series starting. Which is going to be freaking fascinating.
What is that?
The 2022 edition of the Next Unicorns.
Yes. There could still be unicorns. Companies could still break out and become very successful. So we're going to find companies that we think are in that $100 million to $500 million valuation, have gotten to that 10 or 20 million in revenue, and that they could be the next companies that be worth billions of dollars. And then obviously, if that happens, they could be companies that could eventually become publicly traded companies. So we like to do this every year. Try to figure out who's in that group. And we actually need to go back, and we should get thisweekinstartups.com/nextunicorn set up, Nick. And we should put a list of all the previous companies with links to their episodes. If that URL is not up yet, when you go to it, we'll have it up in the next day or two. But we should actually see if they did become unicorns. That'd be good to look at our track record.
That is awesome. We should totally do that. Well, tomorrow we're going to interview a really interesting founder in a field related to investing your personal money, which is, again, so relevant to all of us. It's the disintermediation of everything. There's no more expertise. There's just like DIY with some online help. It's going to be fascinating.
All right. Stay tuned.